I like a good challenge, and it's why I was attracted to Chaos Walking right from the outset. It was like, sometimes I start with something that could be an easy, straightforward idea, and then I make it really hard, like Bourne Identity, which could have been just a more straightforward spy movie. Something like Chaos Walking was never going to be straightforward. I mean, the original script was written by Charlie Kaufman. There is no kind of like conventional way of telling a story where people's thoughts are projected out. So the challenge for us, and one which if I had solved certain things earlier, the studio probably would not have been trying to solve it themselves.
It is the first day of shooting. There's an eclipse. Miraculously, we wrote a great scene for today last night, and we're all exhausted. And they're actually totally delivering, and they're really exhausted. And tonight we're going to get a good night's sleep, so Tuesday is going to be awesome.
I've been naked all day.
And loving it.
Chaos Walking was a really, really challenged production from the beginning. We didn't have a lock script when we started shooting, and that's not the first time that's happened. Bourne Identity didn't have a lock script. Mr. and Mrs. Smith didn't have a lock script. Edge of Tomorrow barely had any script. And those films turned out great. I'm certainly not the only filmmaker that starts without a lock script, and I'm not a glutton for punishment. It's just sometimes, the actors are available, and you end up with a start date. On Edge of Tomorrow, Tom Cruise and I used to turn to each other and say, nothing like a looming start date to force you to get the script into shape. And then we started shooting without the script in shape. And the two of us turned to each other during production on Edge of Tomorrow and said, nothing like a looming wrap date to force you to get the script into shape. And then we finished shooting and we still didn't have the script in place. And then we're like, nothing like a looming release date to force you to get the script into shape.
He feels like it's two ninjas facing off against each other. And one of them is not Todd can be trying to be like a ninja but the other one's an alien. So the alien is acting too human-like. Okay. Like I want him to have moments where I sort of can feel his, I don't know if humanity's the right word, but his soul.
Doug is really a character. I think something which will sum up Doug in like a wonderful, open, emotional way is when I, as a joke, said, Doug, how's about I make an alien song and sing it into the sky? Like, I was literally just saying something stupid. And he thought about it for a minute before he said no. And I was like, wow, he's really like open to, even if it's a joke, like he was really, really open to people's ideas.
So Tom, don't get thrown off. I'm going to be in the shot, like right to the last set till you grab it, keeping the knife jiggling.
I mean, does it help you if I do it? Does it make it easier if I jiggle it, step out and step in?
Sure.
Because it's less, I mean,
okay,
it justifies it a bit more that it's me rather than you with your green gilet on.
Okay. Here we go.
He definitely has his process, but also he's made really amazing films. So even though his process is different to other filmmakers' processes, the end result is always good and always a Doug Liman film. Like it really has his signature on it.
Here we go. Ready and action.
One of the big challenges of Chaos Walking, and really of a lot of Doug Liman projects, are he absolutely strives for the best in every project that he does, and the challenge that brings is that things can change. And so you might finish a day having done a scene, and he will come back in the next day and say, I'm just not sure that we got what we needed from that scene. I'd really like to try something else. And a big part of making a Doug Liman film work is knowing that you're going to need to accommodate that, knowing that you're going to need to roll with that.
Okay. I don't know how much backing off when we're coming into this a horse can do.
No, I'm shooting it right here, just as where the crane is. Mm-hmm. It's as though it happened there.
Whatever it is, I'll just react to that.
Yeah. And you can also go whack and like it hit the horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, more so than any other film I have done, period. There has been a malleability to the nature of how we capture what we capture. So Doug is a very instinctive director. Like he says of himself, he has a very high BS monitor, as it were. And so if anything doesn't feel right to him, he will change it in the moment, on the day, whether that's dialogue, the setting of it, the interaction between the characters, the costume, you know, whatever it is that for whatever reason isn't feeling right to him, he will change it so that it passes his BS test.
I mean, you could try it with it and see if it, it's only film.
Sabrine? We're shooting on digital.
The thing for Doug is that it has to be right. Now that feels like it's stating the obvious. That seems to be something that we're all setting out to achieve. But at what point do we go to achieve that? And the reality of conventional filmmaking is there are certain parameters driven by budget that, you know, we need to complete the film in this number of days. We need to complete this day's shooting in a certain number of hours. All those realities are things that we have to contend with, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes don't serve to get us to the best place. And we end up having to compromise things, change things, revisit things in a different way. But part of that process is, you know, sometimes we end up with things that we're not quite happy with and clearly don't work.
Wait, go!
Do it. Glad you pulled through.
And what I so admire about Doug is that he just will keep persevering because he's driven by it needing to be right. And sometimes we don't know.
The throw will work better from the other angle.
Play it again, please.
You know, films evolve, you know, as you shoot them, and there's an expectation, understandably, that out of the gate, we need to know exactly what this project is. We need to know exactly how the scenes roll out, how the story evolves, what the character interactions are. We need to know that up front because that's how we plan, and that's how everyone comes to terms with how to do their job as best they can. But that's not the reality often. You know, films take on their own lives. You know, it's a cliche, and I know it's said a million times before, but I really think they do. And the thing is, as they do, you realize that some things work and some things don't. So what I love about Doug is he'll just keep going until someone says you can't anymore.
Here we go, everybody. Fire in the hole. Ready? 3, 2, 1, action! Bang!
And I really do kind of empathize with the studio. Now, mind you, I also empathize with the people hunting Jason Bourne. The same way that I can sort of see the world, how it looks from the people in the CIA when Jason Bourne's, you know, acting unpredictably. I can sort of relate to what it must be like to be a studio executive and have your job and all this money on the line and then have people like myself who have different concerns. I'm just trying to make the best movie I can make. One person's definition of success is not necessarily going to be somebody else's.
I'm going to work. It's the best way to go to work. And it's beautiful out here, too.
It's sort of generally joked about that the name of the film, Chaos Walking, is a very apt description of Doug Liman, and that he brings a certain amount of chaos with him everywhere he goes, but he has a way of getting everybody on board with his vision, and day to day really bringing everybody with him into the heart of the movie.
It is quite cool and not like charging, knife throw, and it hits the spackle in the chest and he jumps on,
I mean,
and then
there's a chance of where he's hissing at her. You know, he's like looking at her and squawk.
Yeah.
Because Todd nailed him with the knife that's what you had, right?
Doug is fantastic. He loses himself in a scene. Sometimes in a detail, sometimes in the whole flavor of a scene, and he forgets completely the rest of the world. As you said, he can walk out in the water because he looked for something, and then he realizes, I mean, maybe he doesn't even realize it. He's in the water. The rest of us does, you know. But it's, I love that commitment. He has a 110% commitment to every second of the day. There's not one lazy moment in his life. It just feels as if he just lets himself be drowned into this film.
This is where Aaron has ridden his horse into the white water, and so just like a quarter mile from here is the actual main river, where the stunties are doing this for real, and this is getting close-ups of our actors as though they're in the main river. And then on Wednesday we're actually going to put the actors in the main river, so we're going to I'm going to shoot everything here, and then some of these shots we'll redo Wednesday on the main river.
5 feet further, because the cameraman is going to have to be roughly where he is.
But obviously it's safer and more controllable here. It's a good way to for everybody to understand. It's almost a dry rehearsal. You know, I mean, it's a rehearsal we're filming and we're going to use some of this footage, but ideally most of what we're doing here we're going to do again in the real river. I mean, anytime you deal with water, it's slow and complicated and dangerous, and just the camera getting from there to there was a pain. And if they need a new lens, somehow it's got to get out to them in the middle of the water. And, you know, people are rowing around, so it's painfully slow.
Well, I imagine Doug's noise for a lot of the day will be, why is everyone asking me so many questions? Why is everyone asking me so many questions? I don't have the answer yet. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. But I want a cup of tea. Where's the hot sauce? I love hot sauce. I really want some more hot sauce. He loves hot sauce.
You know, the noise was just so confounding because with more prep time, we might have actually gotten to a place where we had a test scene of what the noise was going to look like, and then these conversations would not have been so abstract. But the way things worked out, we were figuring out the noise in post. I mean, obviously I had an idea of what it was going to be like, you know, so that the actors' eye lines could match it. But in terms of a vendor and a specific look, that didn't happen until post-production.
I would be lying if I said to you I know exactly what the noise is going to look and feel like in the movie. That's one of the things that I find very intriguing about making this film. You know, we'll be doing a scene and Doug will ask the cinematographer to adjust the frame to incorporate the noise that is swirling around our head. And so you think, is that something I'm acting or you're just going to put there? Because I don't act my thoughts, I'm just having them. And so it's a very intriguing exercise. I remember early on we made the mistake of thinking we should be leaving gaps for the thought, because on the page you would have the dialogue and then you would have the noise. But of course I could be thinking thoughts right now that are synonymous with the fact that I'm talking to you, but they could be completely different things. And that, I think, is what is intriguing about whatever it is going to end up looking like.
I think basically it just depends on how much control he wants to have over what's being said and when it's being said. And
I should take it back. I should take it back. They'll kill her. I should take it.
in this particular scene, we'd been playing it with some of the pre-recorded noise that we did from Tom, but the idea of the scene has changed slightly from what we first recorded and rehearsed, and it's become, you know, there's now a moment of pause where Tom takes his coat off and stops to stuff it in his bag, and so it's just a slightly different idea of what his noise would be in that moment. So having the microphone as well as having the noise rack just enables us to adapt and enables Doug to make the noise whatever he wants it to be.
Tired, thirsty. Maybe I should have turned back. It was a mistake.
There are definitely times where we need to react to some of the noise. We need to take it in.
What a mess out here!
Battery! Look, I found some graves over here. Maybe we're gonna dig them up.
It's a good thing to be reminded that it exists, because obviously we can also take it so much for granted that we don't notice it anymore. But as actors, we have to be reminded once in a while, and I think that's a part Doc takes on himself with a big pleasure. He loves to do the noise.
Holy f***, it's a woman! It's a woman! Woman!
Are you from Earth?
Woman!
I'm sorry.
What happened was I had Doug screaming at me. So it wasn't hard to imagine the noise because I literally had Doug off camera going, noise, spackle.
His noise is all over the place. His noise is going out of control. Rustling bushes. And bam!
He would just shout all the time to the point I was like, oh my God, now I can imagine it. Please, can you stop shouting?
And bam! And once more, and Martin, give us a little more headroom for the noise.
In most scene preparation I do, and I think all the actors on this set, you know, you think about your subtext and what you say with your face but don't actually say out loud, and what your internal, you know, dialogue is. And with this, it's all out there in our noise. And so you have to be really specific about your intention and what you're saying with your physicality, and it's been a wild card. I mean, at first I had to wrap my head around the concept as a whole, and then actually acting with that as a piece to the puzzle was really quite insane. But it gives it another layer that I think is just more and more exciting as I go about it. And again, you have to trust Doug and his vision for it, and he's been really specific at times on, you know, exactly what he sees the noise saying and doing, and it helps, makes our job a little easier.
It's sort of the nature of these bigger, more visual effects and action-driven movies that the world's bigger than any one screenwriter. You know, it's like you kind of need the art department, and you kind of have to put the movie together to see because it's more imaginative than, say, Swingers, where you're like, okay, it's a world we all know. Like, you know, Jon Favreau didn't need us to visually create the world of LA nightlife for him to then go write Swingers. But in the case of something like Chaos Walking, you know, it's set on another planet, so it takes, you know, hundreds of people to create that world and all of the details, and then that's actually going to trickle back to how the story plays out. And so it is there is something about when you're doing world building, you know, movies that don't take place exactly in our world, where allowing the screenwriter to have the benefit of everybody else who comes in to build the world. You know, kind of like the screenwriter does a script, then we go and build a world that the screenwriter then comes back in and it redoes the script to fit that world, and then we readjust some more art department. It's sort of a give and take, and hopefully you end up with something that is better than any one single person's vision could have been, because it's the best of hundreds of people's.